A ring worn by a Hollywood icon left a trail of death and misfortune for everyone who touched it, from co-stars to lovers to thieves. Souvenirs swiped from the Gettysburg battlefield keep finding their way back in the mail, returned by people convinced a rock ruined their lives. And an ancient stash of gold vanished without a trace. The man who stole it, along with his family and generations after them, were plagued with terrible luck. These are real cursed artifacts said to bring death to anyone who owns them. And we begin with a tale from the very early days of Hollywood. Silent film star Rudolph Valentino's first lead role in 1919 launched him into stardom. And by the time he was filming a movie called Young Raja in 1922, he was a Hollywood heartthrob. But the movie flopped. Hey, no sweat. Every actor's been in some duds, but this was only the beginning of a streak of bad luck, and some say that his misfortune was thanks to a tiger's eye ring he started wearing during the shoot. In the years that followed, Valentino went through 2 messy divorces, he got arrested and tried for bigamy, and he went on to fight with his studio over money. Then in 1926, Valentino suddenly collapsed at the Hotel Ambassador in New York. He had brutal stomach pain. At first, doctors thought it was appendicitis, but once they opened him up, they realized it was way worse. He had perforated ulcers and peritonitis, which is basically a serious infection in the lining of your abdomen. For a minute, it actually looked like he might pull through, but a few days later, the infection spread. He developed pneumonia, and without antibiotics back then, there wasn't much doctors could do. Just a little over a week after that collapse, he was dead at only 31. But this is not where the story ends. Not by a long shot. His fiancée, actress Paula Negri, started wearing the ring, and she ended up getting seriously ill. She gave it to her lover, singer Russ Columbo, who was then killed in a freak shooting accident. Columbo's best friend Joe Casino then took it, only to die after being hit by a truck. His brother Del took it next, and then it was stolen by a burglar. Lucky for him too, because that thief, James Willis, was later killed by police. He died with the tiger eye ring still on his finger. Today, the ring's locked away in an LA bank vault, which of course has been robbed since it's been there. People have been known to take rocks from the Gettysburg battlefield, thinking, it's just a harmless souvenir. But then they've mailed them back with desperate letters about all the terrible stuff that happened after. A park ranger named Maria Brady says the park regularly receives packages with stones, twigs, or dirt, and, notes like, "I took this and everything went wrong, please, I'm sorry." One guy returned 3 rocks in 2006 after a string of injuries, a divorce, and a prison sentence. Another person returned a single stone and wrote that they'd lost their job, gone through multiple surgeries, and had every relationship fall apart since taking it. The park doesn't advertise this stuff, but the rangers take it seriously. They've got a whole file full of apology letters. The Rainwoman is one spooky painting. There's something about it that just makes me feel off. Created by the Russian artist Svetlana Telets in 1996, the painting portrays a pale, thin woman with a strange hat standing in the rain. It's not a disturbing scene in itself like a lot of other pieces of art on this list, but there's something very unsettling about this figure. On top of that, there are the stories surrounding the piece. For one, Telets herself said that for about 6 months before she even started the piece, she felt like she was being watched. Not like, I think someone's looking at me from across the street kind of feeling, no, more like there was something in the room with her constantly. That kind of creeping presence you can't see but feel in your bones. When she finally began the painting, it got even stranger. Telets claimed her hand didn't feel like it was her own while she worked. She described it like something else was guiding her brush, like she was just the tool and not the artist anymore. The painting has passed through several hands over the years, and nearly every person who's owned it reports some kind of emotional disturbance. Chronic insomnia, recurring nightmares, and a sense of despair so heavy it can actually drive people to return the painting. And some say they could feel her watching them at night, not just from the wall, but from places she shouldn't be, like the foot of their bed or just outside the doorway, staring through the small crack in the door leading to the shadowy hallway beyond it. It's said that the Rainwoman can leave the painting. Owners have reported seeing her walking around their homes in the middle of the night. They'd catch a glimpse of a soaking wet woman out of the corner of their eye, only to look and see nothing there. It's also said that the longer you keep her, the worse things get. She attaches herself to you, feeds off your mood, makes your thoughts darker. Doesn't matter if you hide her in the closet, turn her to face the wall, or even lock her in storage, that feeling of being watched, being followed, it just sticks. And that's why nobody wants this painting around for long. Marshal Gorki's life was a tragedy almost too haunting to believe. Born in Armenia, he suffered unimaginable hardships even before he made it to the United States. His mother died when he was really young during a famine. His father was unable to care for him, so he sent him to an orphanage. As an adult, Gorki's life just continued to spiral into chaos. He lost his studio to a fire. He was diagnosed with colon cancer, discovered his wife was cheating on him, and in a horrific accident, broke both his neck and arm. The guy just could not get a break. So of course, his mental state crumbled, and some say his terrible luck seeped into his art. Many of his works from 1904 to 1938 are said to be cursed. People have reported these paintings mysteriously falling off walls or just bursting into flames, often with no clear explanation. But the real creepy part is the black-haired ghost that allegedly appears near the paintings, dressed in a blue overcoat. Some people who've worked closely with Gorki's art claim to have seen the figure with their own eyes. Alright, some ghost stories, nothing all that crazy, but to top all of this off, on March 1st, 1962, a plane carrying 87 passengers, 8 crew members, and 15 of Gorki's artworks crashed just after takeoff. It went down just 2 minutes after leaving the airport, killing everyone on board. The wreckage of the plane was found in a swamp, and along with it, the destroyed pieces of Gorki's art. Coincidence? Yeah, likely, but I gotta say, I'd probably be a little uncomfortable having one of these guys' pieces in my home. This painting, simply called the Anguished Man, is one of the creepiest and most infamous haunted artworks in the world. The story goes that it was painted by an artist who used his own red bodily fluid mixed into the paint. The artist, who's unknown, allegedly created the piece in a fit of madness, pouring his own agony into the work. Since then, the painting has been rumored to be a cursed piece. Its last known owner, Sean Robinson, from Cumbria, England, claims the thing is just no good. The painting was passed down to him from his grandmother, who told him the creepy story about the artist who supposedly took his own life shortly after completing the piece. Well, shortly after Robinson brought the thing home, strange things started happening. He'd hear haunting noises like disembodied laughter or crying. He'd have this heavy feeling of dread whenever he was close to the thing, and at one point, he even spotted this shadowy figure lurking in his home one night. Eventually, he decided to just lock the thing away in the attic and hasn't taken it out since. Love Letters by Richard King may not look like anything out of the ordinary, but it has a very eerie story behind it. The painting, which hangs in the Driscoll Hotel in Austin, Texas, depicts a girl holding flowers and a letter. Oddly though, guests staying at the hotel have reported feeling uneasy when they're near it, often talking about this unsettling energy in the room where it's displayed. Some say they've seen the painting's eyes follow them as they walk by. Others claim they've felt cold spots or heard faint whispers coming from the painting itself. But why is this? Well, supposedly this piece is haunted by the alleged spirit of a little girl who died in the hotel a long time ago. It's said that the girl's ghost is drawn to the painting, causing strange disturbances around it. It's not uncommon for staff to find the painting's frame slightly tilted, or noticing the girl's expression is briefly changed, as if there's some sort of entity trapped in the canvas. Movia is not just a portrait. Its backstory is full of tragedy and despair. Created by the Filipino artist Juan Luna in the late 19th century, this piece is believed to depict Luna's wife, Paspardo de Tavera, but the story behind this piece is anything but romantic. Luna, in a fit of jealousy, tragically killed his wife in 1892, believing she was having an affair. But he didn't just claim Paz's life, her mother also died and her brother was severely wounded. The painting is said to be haunted by the spirit of his wife, vengeful and angry for the way her life ended. In 1987, the portrait was displayed at an exhibition at the Metropolitan Museum of Manila. During the opening night, something strange happened. The light bulb above Movia exploded, plunging the painting into total darkness, while the other pieces remained brightly lit, and those who have owned the portrait claim to have experienced some odd things. While one owner went bankrupt, while another suffered multiple miscarriages. We all know Edvard Munch for his famous painting The Scream, but there's another of his work that's far more unsettling. The Dead Mother was painted in 1899, and it's lesser known, but just as spine-chilling, if not more. The piece shows a young child standing next to the cold, lifeless body of her mother. It's raw, tragic, deeply unsettling. Now, the subject matter here definitely makes some of the stories surrounding the piece easy to understand. A lot of people will say the painting gives off this overwhelming air of unease and a deep sense of sadness. The most disturbing part, though, is the ghostly aura surrounding it. The painting is said to be cursed, with multiple stories of misfortune following its owners. The most chilling account comes from the time the painting was displayed in an art gallery, where it supposedly caused visitors to experience extreme nausea and a feeling of overwhelming dread. Some were even said to have fainted. This 19th century painting by British artist Edwin Landseer has an incredibly dark and ominous history. The painting shows the aftermath of the Franklin expedition, a real-life incident where a group of British explorers were lost in the Arctic, dying of starvation and exposure. Landseer's portrayal of the doomed men, with polar bears picking over their remains, is grim enough on its own, but there's another story associated with the painting aside from the historical event it's depicting. According to one legend, when it was displayed at the Royal Holloway University in London, students who took exams in the room where it was hung reported strange stuff going on. The light above the painting would often flicker and die, even while all the other lights in the room stayed on. Another rumor around campus was that if you were unlucky enough to sit in front of this painting during an exam, you'd surely fail it. But the most shocking claim came from a student who allegedly jumped to their death after taking an exam near the painting, leaving a note that read, "The polar bear made me do it." Zdzisław Belinski was a Polish artist known for his hauntingly surreal and grotesque paintings. His works often feature nightmarish scenes, twisted landscapes, and grotesque figures that seem to come from the darkest depths of your worst dreams. He's gotta be one of my favorite painters. His work is just incredible. His untitled pieces are especially unsettling, though, and people who've encountered his paintings up close have experienced this profound sense of unease, like the artwork seeps into their bodies somehow. Some of his pieces are known for affecting people's mental state, with accounts of people falling ill or experiencing violent nightmares after coming into close contact with them. And given that Beksinski went out tragically, a violent death at the hands of an intruder, well, that just adds to the dark aura surrounding his art. Some believe his paintings carry this lingering curse, drawing bad energy to anyone who owns them. The portrait of Bernardo de Galvez hanging in the Galvez Hotel in Galveston, Texas, is not just a historical piece, it's a cursed one, at least some say. Galvez was a Spanish military leader who helped the American colonies during the Revolutionary War. His portrait hangs prominently in the hotel, and many guests will claim that if you look at it for too long, it has a strange effect on you. People say the eyes in the painting seem to follow them around the room, and some have claimed to see strange floating orbs around it. There's also a story about a guest who took a photo of the painting only to have their camera malfunction and captured nothing but a blur where the portrait had been. Apparently, that happens a lot, actually. If you don't ask Galvez's permission to take a picture of his portrait, it's said that your picture will come out blurry and distorted. The painting has such an eerie reputation that even the hotel staff are hesitant to go near it after dark. And this last one is true nightmare fuel, even without context. I mean, just look at this ugly looking piece. This garbage painting is called Pogo the Clown and was created by John Wayne Gacy, the notorious serial killer who performed as a clown at birthday parties. Need I say more? Well, I have to, actually. Gacy, who would later be convicted of killing 33 young men, painted several clown portraits during his time in prison, and various other stuff as well. But this particular painting, though, it just has a bad vibe about it. A self-portrait of this evil, depraved man's alter ego. No one who's come into contact with this cursed artwork has kept it for long. A musician named Nicky Stone bought it back in 2001, and he regretted it almost immediately when his dog died and his mother got cancer. He gave the painting to a friend whose neighbor then died in a car crash, and this friend gave it to another friend who soon after receiving the piece attempted to take their own life.
What if I told you the world's most terrifying artifacts aren't on display, but locked away in museum basements, hidden for a reason? From twisted mummies to cursed dolls, these are objects too dangerous, too disturbing, and too unexplained to ever meet the public eye. Hidden behind a secret door in Denmark's Little Museum of Nykøbing Falster, sorry, my Danish isn't very great, museum workers uncovered something straight out of a nightmare. A grotesque wolf-headed humanoid preserved with unnerving realism. During renovations in 2017, staff stumbled upon a concealed chamber containing crates, documents, and sketches belonging to the eccentric Cornelius S.C. Rotter, the building's mysterious former owner. Among his bizarre collection was this unsettling figure, carefully crafted from animal fur, bones, and disturbingly lifelike materials, sparking whispers of occult rituals and forbidden practices. Museum curators remain baffled, uncertain whether Rotter intended this creature as dark art, a ceremonial relic, or something far more sinister. Whatever the truth, it now remains locked safely away from public eyes, hidden in the back rooms, perhaps for our own protection. Hidden away in a museum's shadowy back room sits a grotesque artifact that blurs the line between myth and nightmare. The skeletal remains of what can only be described as a centaur, a creature straight out of ancient Greek legend. Discovered tucked away behind locked doors in a European curiosity museum, this bizarre skeleton immediately sparked wild rumors about its origins. Constructed with startling anatomical precision, the piece seamlessly combines genuine human and equine bones, fueling unsettling theories of secret experiments or occult rituals conducted centuries ago. Museum insiders have hinted that the skeleton's origins trace back to an obscure 18th century collector known for his obsession with mythological hybrids, though details remain intentionally vague. Whether a twisted scientific hoax or a dark artifact with a genuinely cursed past, one thing's clear: there's a good reason it's being hidden far from the eyes of the public. Tucked away in a dimly lit museum storage room, hidden from public view, stands an artifact so strange it immediately sparks a sense of dread. A skeletal creature with oversized, almost alien features, known simply as the Atacama skeleton. Originally discovered in Chile's Atacama Desert, early tests baffled researchers due to its tiny size, elongated skull, and startlingly abnormal anatomy, fueling wild theories that ranged from extraterrestrial life to ancient curses. More detailed analysis eventually confirmed it was human, yet the mutations that warped its bones remained an eerie mystery, some speculating that ancient rituals or secretive experiments were involved. Now locked away behind closed doors, the skeleton remains a haunting relic, too unsettling to display openly, too intriguing to completely discard. Hidden deep within a museum's forbidden archives lies an artifact straight from your darkest childhood fears, a tiny, grotesque mummy known ominously as the Pixie specimen. Recovered by a private collector known as Alex CF, this bizarre creature has sparked unsettling debates about its origins. With its shrunken, shriveled body, disturbingly lifelike features, and remnants of fiery red hair, it appears horrifyingly genuine. Some speculate it was crafted as a macabre Victorian curiosity, while others believe it to be physical evidence of mythological beings like fairies or pixies secretly studied by occult societies. Locked away and rarely mentioned publicly, the Pixie specimen remains shrouded in secrecy, its unsettling presence haunting museum curators brave enough to enter the back room alone. Hidden in a dark museum storeroom lies an artifact so terrifying it feels plucked straight from sailor legends, known as the Fiji mermaid. Originally displayed displayed in sideshows during the 19th century, this particular specimen is among the most unnerving ever discovered. Combining the dried upper torso of a monkey with the scaly body of a fish, its grotesque, glassy-eyed stare has sparked rumors of dark rituals, curses, and sightings of real aquatic humanoids. Sailors once believed owning a Fiji mermaid brought storms, shipwrecks, and madness, making museums hesitant to place them openly on display. Locked away, carefully hidden from public view, this creature now sits silently, fueling chilling whispers about what else the seas and secret museum storerooms might be hiding.
In 2017, police found something they were never expecting to find in the basement of Joshua Seguin, a pool filled with sharks, the majority of which were alive. There were 7 live sandbar sharks, 2 dead leopard sharks, and a dead hammerhead. He'd been intending to sell them. All of this was discovered after he was arrested in Georgia for driving without a license. Police found a bunch of baby sharks in a tank in the bed of his truck. Joshua admitted that he was transporting them back to New York, where he was going to sell them under his business name Aquatic Apex Life. And he also revealed right away that he had more sharks in his basement, so at least he was honest. When a new homeowner decided to explore the basement of his recently purchased house, he came across a pile of heavy bricks on the floor. Curious as to what they were doing there, he decided to move them out of the way, only to find that they were weighing down a trap door. He slowly opened it and discovered that there was an 8-foot deep by 4-foot wide cement well filled with murky water. Instead of digging deeper into the mystery, the guy snapped a few photos of it. A doll that changed into a horrifying ghoulish nightmare, almost as if it actually aged. A teddy bear that sent a man to the hospital, a lifelike mannequin that may be more than just an eerily realistic sculpture. These are cursed dolls that even Ed and Lorraine Warren would have been terrified of. This first story was making its rounds on the internet for a while, the doll that aged. So it all started with a regular baby girl doll that a young girl played with every day, but as time passed and the girl grew up, she played with the doll less and less, until eventually it was tucked away in the attic and forgotten about for over a decade. Sounds like the beginning of like Toy Story, but this is kind of like the horror version. So fast forward to when the parents decide to clear out the attic, they're looking for the old doll, but when they finally find it, they're completely shocked and horrified to find that the doll, which had been left untouched for years, now looked like this. Just kinda different from how they remembered it. I mean, in what world would anyone ever purchase something as horrific looking as that for their young daughter? Unless, you know, you're me, because that's a reaction I would just love to see on Christmas morning. The once sweet baby doll now had this ghoulish, shriveled appearance. I mean, it looks worse than the Crypt Keeper. Horrified, the parents quickly got rid of the doll. They didn't burn it in a fire like you'd probably expect though. Instead, they took the time to actually sell this monstrosity. And managed to. Next we have mourning dolls, and that's not like early mourning, I mean the death kind of mourning. Mourning dolls were a thing in the Victorian era, and back in those days life was incredibly tough, especially with the rampant diseases that led to high mortality rates a lot of the time in younger people. To cope with the loss of young loved ones, some families created these unique dolls known as Victorian mourning dolls. These were actually made for the parents, keepsakes designed to honor and remember their deceased daughters or sons. They were usually made from materials like wax or porcelain and dressed in black clothing to symbolize mourning and death. And even more depressing, they were handcrafted to look just like the youngsters who just croaked, with great attention to detail, and they'd usually put them on display where they used to play. Good lord. I get the idea of creating this tangible thing that's meant to keep their spirit alive, I guess, but man, that is morbid. To say that some of these things must have been cursed would be an understatement. Oh, mannequins, don't they just make you want to leave the store immediately? A lot of the time they're just faceless figures now, but they used to be a lot creepier when they were made to look more like people, with like eyes and noses and lips. Well, no mannequin hits that unsettling uncanny valley thing more than La Pascalita, an eerie mannequin that's become a must-see attraction in Mexico. This mannequin is known for its very lifelike appearance, and some people believe it might be more than just a display piece. The story goes that La Pascalita was modeled after the daughter of the bridal shop's original owner. She tragically died on her wedding day after being bitten by a poisonous insect. Heartbroken, the mother commissioned the mannequin in her likeness as a way to remember her. but there's always been this rumor or urban legend that La Pascalita isn't a mannequin at all, but a preserved corpse. Some claim they've seen her move or even heard her whisper. Plus, the thing is just so eerily lifelike, especially for a mannequin. I mean, just look at that hand. Ugh. This story went viral when a TikToker named Jessie V did a video on it, but the ordeal had actually been filmed for TV before that. So this is the story of Mr. Ted, a haunted teddy bear that sent a man to the hospital. Mr. Ted once belonged to a psychic medium named Debbie Davis who claimed that the bear had some unsettling vibes. According to her, Mr. Ted had been known to cause nausea in people and even make growling sounds. So, what do you do with a growling bear that makes you vomit? Well, you take it to a haunted castle, of course, because why not? Bolsover Castle is famous for being one of the most haunted castles in England. A team of 3 volunteers then agreed to spend the night in the castle with Mr. Ted just to see if there was any truth to the story. They set up their experiment with Mr. Ted sitting on a chair next to them as they tried to get some sleep. Paranormal expert Joe Lockwood was on hand, observing from a nearby room. Well, around 3 a.m., the team lost connection with a camera, and during this weird period, one of the producers working on the TV experiment suddenly fell ill and had to go to the hospital. After this, the bear was buried in a secret location about 30 miles from its owner's home in Manchester. Fingers crossed it doesn't crawl out of its grave to growl and upset any other innocent stomachs ever again. Okiku is a haunted doll from Japan with a really tragic backstory. In 1918, a young man named Daikichi Suzuki bought a doll for his young sister, Okiku. She fell in love with it right away and took it everywhere she went. But sadly, Okiku caught the yellow fever and died just a year later, still clutching the doll in her arms. Her family built an altar for her and placed the doll there to honor her memory. But people started noticing that the doll's hair, which had been neatly styled, seemed to grow. They saw split ends and longer strands, and along with this, the family experienced odd happenings in their home. There'd be flickering lights, loud bangs, and whispers, especially around significant dates, like Okiku's birthday, or the anniversary of her death. In 1938, the family moved, but decided to leave the doll behind, feeling it belonged near their daughter's resting place. They gave it to a local temple where it remains to this day, and yes, the hair supposedly continues to grow. Looking at this puppet, would you ever think twice about sleeping in the same room with it? It looks pretty innocuous, right? Well, according to paranormal investigator Jane Harris from Stourbridge, West Midlands, that wouldn't be advised. She'd acquired the doll from a guy named John who claimed that the wooden puppet tried to choke him in the middle of the night. So Harris decided to keep a camera on the thing throughout the night to try and see if it got up to any mischief. Well, one night, it did. On camera, she captured the string with the cross attached, which operates the puppet, slowly moving upright on its own before falling back down in the case. Harris stated, "I've never had anything as exciting as this. I've caught pictures of mists, orbs, and shadows, but nothing as physical as this video evidence." The previous owner, John, had grown up with the puppet, which belonged to his father. He said he never liked it either, that it always gave him the creeps, and that whenever friends came to visit, they'd never want to get near it. And then, of course, there's the choking incident. After John's father had died, he was clearing out his belongings, but ended up keeping the puppet, which he left on the drawer by his bed. And that very night, the incident occurred. He said, quote, "I was wide awake in bed and thought I saw a shadow move from one side of the window to the other, and worried something was trying to scare us. Then, without warning, my throat suddenly went really tight. I've never had anyone's hands around my throat before, so it was really scary. I tried to wake my wife, but it took her ages to come around. When she did, I remember looking straight at the puppet sitting on the drawer near our bed and realizing it was him." We've all heard of Robert the Doll. Well, how about a spooky first-hand account? This story comes from Reddit user Sublime Sloth, who posted this story along with a photo. They wrote, "Long story short, friend's sister went to the Robert the Doll exhibit in Key West and didn't believe the curse. Apparently flicked it off and took a photo without asking permission. Started having terrible luck. Photos messed up, eerie feelings of being watched, etc. This photo was taken after a conversation talking about how she felt that Robert was following her and had something to do with her string of bad luck. Someone jokingly took the photo after invoking Robert's name to see what would happen. 100% real and not photoshopped. She immediately wrote a letter apologizing to the doll the next day. Nightmare fuel. Had this photo for years and show it every time the topic of ghosts comes up. I don't know, what do you guys think of this one? Let me know in the comments. Did you get super sick of the movie Frozen 11 years back? God, that was over a decade ago. Well, at least you didn't have to go through what this next family did. In 2013, the Bedonia family in Houston brought an Elsa doll from the movie Frozen for their young daughter. Now, at first, everything was normal. The doll sang and said cute phrases from the movie just like it was supposed to, but then things started getting weird. According to Emily Bedonia, the doll started doing stuff like switching between English and Spanish, and for the next 6 years, the doll never once needed new batteries. Not that it even needed batteries at all, because apparently it would even say things when it was supposed to be off. So naturally the family decided they'd had enough of Elsa and her weird antics, so they decided to let it go. Good old 11-year-old joke. Anyway, they threw it in the trash, but none of this is the creepy part. A few weeks later, they found Elsa in their basement. They tried to get rid of it again, this time by putting it deep at the bottom of the trash bin right before the garbage was collected. Then they took a short trip out of town, thinking the doll was finally gone, but when they got back, Elsa was sitting in the backyard. She'd never left. Now you'd think someone was just messing with them, but Emily pointed out that the doll had this distinctive mark from their daughter. The doll sitting in the backyard had that very same mark. This is Harold, full name Harold the Haunted Doll. And it's pretty easy to see why. I'd have some serious questions for whatever youngster would ever want to spend time playing with this thing. In 2003, a young man came across Harold at a flea market and felt this immediate urge to buy him for some reason. It was worn and shabby, but the man bargained with the seller and eventually paid $20 for it. But before he could leave, the old man selling the doll stopped him and insisted he hear the doll's eerie backstory. The man revealed that Harold was a gift he'd given to his own son, who tragically died shortly after receiving it. After his son's death, the old man kept Harold in his room, and that's when strange things began to happen. He would hear singing and laughter coming from the room when no one else was around. Frustrated and scared by the constant disturbances, the old man tried to burn the doll, but it wouldn't catch fire. The Redditor decided to take the doll home anyway, and things got weird almost immediately. He started experiencing severe migraines, something he had never dealt with before. And a couple days later, his cat died. He began hearing the same voices and laughter that the old man had described as well. But even with all this happening, he decided to keep Harold, but he stuffed him in a suitcase, out of sight, out of mind. And I guess he couldn't burn it, he already knew, but I would have definitely not kept it in a suitcase. I would have driven it out of town and left it in the woods. The Swamp Dolls. It sounds like a great name for a band, but you know, that's not where I'm going with this thing. So in 2014, police in Alabama stumble on a very odd scene in Bear Creek Swamp. They find 21 dolls, most of them antique porcelain, all stuck on bamboo stakes and standing upright in the middle of the swamp. The dolls were discovered on land owned by a timber company, but when the police tried to reach out to the company to get some answers, they never got a response. The police also tried to track down who put the dolls there, but they came up empty-handed. Now, this wouldn't be all that eerie if Bear Creek Swamp didn't already have somewhat of a spooky reputation. People who visit the swamp have reported hearing disembodied voices, seeing strange orbs, and even spotted unidentified creatures. There's also an old legend that says the swamp is haunted by a grieving mother who's endlessly searching for her lost daughter. But believe in ghosts or not, it's hard to deny that finding a bunch of old dolls on stakes in a swamp is kind of unsettling. What if some of the artifacts of our past aren't just relics of human history, but evidence of life beyond our planet? The gold of Tolosa is this ancient treasure that's been blamed for death, betrayal, and plain old bad luck for hundreds of years. The story goes back to 106 BCE, when Roman general Quintus Servilius Capio plundered a massive stash of gold and silver from the Gauls in Tolosa, which is modern-day Toulouse in France. There were about 15,000 talents, which would be worth billions today, but right after the general took it, everything went to hell. The treasure mysteriously vanished while being transported. Some say bandits stole it, others think Capio had just stashed it for himself. Either way, nobody saw it again. Then Capio's army was wiped out, and he was exiled from Rome, stripped of his citizenship and fined so much it just ruined his family. People started saying the treasure was cursed, and Capio was just the first to fall. His descendants didn't fare any better. His son was killed during war, and his great-grandson was Marcus Junius Brutus, the same Brutus who killed Julius Caesar and later took his own life after losing the Battle of Philippi. Back in 1857, during the Indian Mutiny, a British soldier named Colonel W. Ferris took what he thought was a valuable purple sapphire from the Temple of Indra in Kanpur. He brought it back to England, and pretty soon his life started to fall apart. His finances started to suck, his family members got seriously ill, and just bad luck seemed to follow them everywhere. At first, Ferris chalked it up to just life being life. You know, bad things happen, and sometimes, unfortunately, all at once. But after he loaned the gem to a family friend who later took their own life, he started to suspect that maybe something else was going on. By 1890, the gem had ended up in the hands of Edward Heron Allen, a scientist and writer. He was not a superstitious guy at all. At first, that is. But after he lent the stone to a friend who was immediately hit with a wave of bum luck, and later to a singer who claimed she lost her voice permanently after wearing it, Heron Allen started to wonder. He tried throwing it into a canal, but it was found and returned to him. Eventually, he sealed it inside 7 boxes with protective charms and locked it in a bank vault, leaving instructions not to open it until long after his death. The Regent Diamond was discovered in India in 1698 by a slave who, according to the legend, cut open his own leg and hid the gem inside the wound to sneak it out. Before he could escape, though, an English sea captain found out, killed him, and sold the diamond. From there, the stone made its way to France and was bought by Philippe II, regent of France. That's where the diamond got its current name. It ended up in the French crown jewels and was worn by Louis XV, then Louis XVI, and Marie Antoinette. Considering both Louis and Marie ended up losing their heads during the French Revolution, people started calling the diamond cursed. It was stolen during the Revolution, turned up years later, and eventually ended up with Napoleon Bonaparte, who set it into the hilt of his sword. He took that into battles, into power, and then eventually into exile. The Black Prince's Ruby. At first glance, it looks like one of the crown jewels of England. And technically it is, but the Black Prince's Ruby isn't actually a ruby at all. It's a giant red spinel. A spinel is a gemstone that looks a lot like a ruby, but is actually a different mineral. Anyway, the stone first shows up in history in 1362, belonging to Abu Sa'id, the last Sultan of Granada. He arranged a peace meeting with King Pedro of Castile, but he was killed, some say by Pedro himself. The gem was taken from his body, and people say the act of betrayal kicked off what's referred to as the Sultan's Curse. Pedro gave the stone to Edward of Woodstock, better known as the Black Prince, and he never became king. He died of a mysterious illness. His son Richard II took the throne, but he was killed. Then came Henry IV, who died from disease. His son Henry V inherited the stone and wore it into battle. He survived, but the bad luck didn't stop there. The gem kept getting passed down through rulers who died young, were executed, or ended up exiled. It's now set into the imperial state crown, on display in the Tower of London. Bisbee's stoop chair, also known as the dead man's chair, is an old oak chair with a pretty dark reputation. The story goes back to 1702 in North Yorkshire, when a guy named Thomas Busby was executed for taking the life of his father-in-law. The two ran a shady coin counterfeiting business. They had a huge fight one day, and Bisbee ended up killing him. Now, depending on who you ask, Bisbee cursed the chair either while intoxicated and sitting in it during his arrest at a pub, or while on his way to the gallows. After Bisbee was hanged and his body was displayed near an inn, the chair stayed at that same pub, which was later renamed the Bisbee Stoop Inn. That's when people started noticing a disturbing pattern. People who sat in it seemed to meet sudden violent ends. During World War II, Canadian airmen stationed nearby would drink at that pub, and locals swore the ones who sat in the chair, they'd never come back from missions. By the 70s, there were enough fatal accidents tied to it that the pub's landlord got spooked and he donated it to Thirsk Museum. Today it's still there, but it hangs from the ceiling so that no one can actually sit in it. And honestly, even if you don't believe in curses, wouldn't you be at least a little apprehensive about trying? The Black Orlov Diamond is one of the most famous cursed gems in the world. And the story behind it is brutal. The story goes that it was stolen from a Hindu temple in southern India, where it had been used as the eye of a statue of the god Brahma. The moment it was taken, the gem was supposedly cursed by a priest who caught the thief in the act. From that point on, death and disaster seemed to follow whoever owned it. In the 30s, a New York diamond dealer named J.W. Paris took the gem to the US to try and sell it. Not long after, he ended up jumping to his death from a Manhattan skyscraper. Then two Russian princesses who owned the diamond, they also took their own lives within a few years of each other. Eventually, a diamond dealer named Charles F. Winson bought it, had it recut and mounted onto a brooch with dozens of white diamonds. Some say he did it to break the curse, but that part's just speculation. The gem still exists though. It's been on display at a number of museums, including the Smithsonian. The Moon of Baroda is a 24-karat yellow diamond with a reputation that you probably wouldn't want attached to your jewelry. It was found about 500 years ago in India and spent centuries in the hands of a royal dynasty that ruled parts of the country. In the mid-1700s, it made its first trip overseas. It was briefly owned by Empress Marie Therese of Austria, mother of Marie Antoinette. After her death, the diamond went back to India, and some people blamed her fate on the diamond's curse. Then, all the way in 1953, Detroit jeweler Mayer Rosenbaum bought it and strung the diamond on a leather cord and had Marilyn Monroe wear it while promoting the musical Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Well, that same year, her career and personal life started to spiral. The Moon of Baroda has popped up at auctions in 1990 and 2018, but both times the buyer stayed anonymous, so who knows what happened to them. The Conjured Chest, also called the Death Chest, is a plain-looking wooden chest sitting in the Kentucky History Museum, but its backstory is anything but plain. It all goes back to the 1830s in Kentucky, when a man named Jeremiah Graham had a chest built by an enslaved man named Remus. The story goes that Remus, along with other enslaved workers, was forced to make it and never got paid for his work. So, allegedly, he did what anyone would do in that situation, and he just cursed the thing. The first victim was Graham's own son, who died under mysterious circumstances. After that, the chest supposedly racked up quite a body count, at least 16 people over the decades, with deaths ranging from sudden illnesses to freak accidents. Some families even tried putting a Bible inside it to kind of cancel out the curse, but that didn't seem to do much. Eventually, the chest got such a reputation that it was donated to the Kentucky History Museum, where it's been sitting ever since. The Tuli Papyrus is a mysterious artifact that some believe could document an ancient encounter with extraterrestrial beings. The story begins in 1933 when Alberto Tuli, a curator at the Vatican Museums, discovered a roll of papyrus in Cairo. This document supposedly dates back to the reign of Thutmose III, around 1480 BCE. After Tuli's death, the scroll suspiciously vanished. Years later, Italian Egyptologist Boris de Rachowiltz claimed to have found a transcription of the Tuli Papyrus, and according to his translation, the text describes a bizarre event. On a winter day, a disc appeared in the sky, approximately 164 feet long and 16.5 feet wide. The disc reportedly emitted a foul odor and had no visible head. As it approached, people were so shocked that they hit themselves in confusion. Then more discs appeared, shining brighter than the sun, followed by fish raining down from the sky. Pharaoh ordered incense offering to calm the Egyptian god of Amun-Ra and mandated that the occurrence be recorded for posterity. The Ica stones, which come from the Ica province in Peru, are made up of a type of volcanic rock. They vary widely in size. There's small palm-sized pieces to massive boulders over 1.5 feet across. What's interesting about these stones is what's carved on them. They seem to depict an unknown ancient civilization with astonishingly advanced technology. The figures are shown in scenes with all this complex technology and medical practices. Some stones depict surgeries like heart and brain operations, C-sections, organ transplants. There's also images that suggest knowledge of astronomy, with figures looking at the stars through telescopes, and carvings of flying machines and spaceships, or at least what looks a lot like them. So how could a civilization capable of such advanced technology have existed so long ago, and how is there no physical evidence of them outside of the images carved on these stones? No ruins, no artifacts, no remains have surfaced to support the existence of this society. So are these genuine relics of a long-lost civilization, or are they just hoaxes? The Drapa stones are a series of mysterious artifacts that some claim are around 12,000 years old. These granite discs are said to feature inscribed markings that tell the story of an extraterrestrial crash landing on Earth. According to the legend, in 1937 an archaeological expedition in the Bayanhar Mountains in China, led by researcher Shi Pute, discovered 716 of these discs, along with the remains of beings with thin bodies and large heads. The story goes that after years of study at the Academy of Prehistory in Beijing, Chinese archaeologists managed to translate the markings. They said that the discs were created by extraterrestrial beings following a crash. Their research was published in an academic journal by one of the archaeologists named Su Nui, but the findings were highly criticized, and Nui was met with so much ridicule that he eventually just left the country, starting a new life in Japan, where he died shortly after. The Drapa stones are said to measure about 1 foot in diameter and feature 2 grooves that form a double spiral around a central hole. The hieroglyph-like symbols are claimed to be visible only with a magnifying glass. Now, for a long time they were forgotten, but in 1966 the story of the stones resurfaced when a Soviet journalist with a name I cannot pronounce published an article claiming that the discs contained metals like cobalt and acted as electrical conductors, even producing a humming sound when placed on a special turntable. Till this day, though, we don't know where the stones are or if they really did exist. The Wandjina are figures in Aboriginal Australian culture known as cloud and rain spirits. You can find their rock art in the Kimberley region of Western Australia, with some paintings dating back around 4,000 years. According to local legends, the Wandjina came to Earth to create, teach, and guide the Aboriginal people. Eventually they disappeared, with stories saying some went underground while others returned to the sky, appearing as moving lights at night. What's really interesting is how the Wandjina are depicted in the artwork. They're drawn with big eyes and light skin, which looks very similar to the classic gray alien images many describe in modern UFO encounters. So it makes you wonder, were these ancient spirits inspired by actual alien encounters? The Tuli Papyrus is a really cool find. The story starts back in 1933 when Alberto Tuli, who is a curator at the Vatican Museums, discovered a roll of papyrus in Cairo. This document is said to date back to the time of Pharaoh Thutmose III around 1480 BCE. But here's where it gets really strange. After Tuli passed away, this scroll just vanished without a trace, and years later an Italian Egyptologist named Boris de Waltz claimed he'd found a transcription of the Tuli Papyrus, and according to his translation, the text tells an incredible story about a day when a large disc appeared in the sky. This disc was about 164 feet long and 16.5 feet wide and gave off a really awful smell. Then more discs kept appearing, shining brighter than the sun. The pharaoh ordered incense offerings to appease the Egyptian god Amun-Ra, and commanded that the event be recorded for future generations. Thus, we now have the Tuli Papyrus. Next, let's talk about Egyptian hieroglyphs in general and some of the odd places they've been spotted, like on crashed UFOs, for example. The infamous Roswell incident in 1947 and the Rendlesham Forest sightings in 1980 were both said to have strange symbols carved into the sides of the UFOs. Some witnesses claimed to see what looked like Egyptian hieroglyphs on the sides of both craft, incredibly strange, and the symbols discovered on the Roswell UFO are said to have matched the ones found on the Rendlesham object. One specific design is apparently a triangle with 2 spheres that appears on both. So why would UFOs have Egyptian-looking symbols etched into them? In the Dendera temple complex, there's a famous relief with an image dubbed the Dendera Light. The image depicts a snake emerging from a lotus flower, seemingly held up by a pillar with human arms at the end. But you gotta look more closely to see that. What's immediately obvious to us modern folks is that this looks a lot like a giant light bulb, specifically a Crookes tube, an early type of light bulb that was invented in the 19th century. There's a pretty uncanny resemblance really, but is it just a coincidence, or is this ancient artwork actually depicting a piece of advanced technology? Another interesting thing about this one, the specific room featuring the Dendera Light is the only one in the entire temple with no evidence of fire-burning lamps. In every other part of the temple, archaeologists found residues from what looked to have been lamps, but not here. So if the room was completely dark, how did the ancient Egyptians light it up? And why would they go to the trouble of carving such an elaborate image if it was just going to be hidden in darkness? Well, maybe the room wasn't pitch black. Maybe they illuminated it with some other, more advanced method. The Saqqara Bird is a cute little sculpture, but it's also led to some pretty interesting conversations. Discovered in an ancient Egyptian tomb near Saqqara, this wooden figure is around 2,200 years old. Now, at first glance, it looks like, a toy bird, but looking closer, and it also kind of looks like a model airplane. The wings look a lot more like a plane than a bird's wings. So it's got people wondering, did the ancient Egyptians have some knowledge of flight? Back in 1969, an Egyptian doctor named Khalil Masih proposed a pretty cool idea. What if this bird was actually a model of an ancient flying machine? People have crafted replicas of the artifact to test how aerodynamic it is, and some of these models have been found to glide pretty well when thrown. If it's not an ancient depiction of a plane, that kid back in the day had a pretty cool toy. Well, we're talking about another find in Saqqara. Near the Pyramid of Djoser, archaeologists came across 24 coffin-shaped black boxes carved from solid Aswan granite. This rock is incredibly tough, so tough that even modern tools have trouble scratching it. So, the fact that some of these boxes have intricate hieroglyphs etched into them is pretty impressive. Not only that, but each box is massive, weighing over 100 tons. Some people think the craftsmanship is so advanced that it feels impossible for ancient Egyptians to have done it alone. And for those who believe in alien involvement, there's a theory that these designs came from somewhere else or were inspired by something advanced. And of course, I can't do this list without talking about the Great Pyramids themselves. Now, while I'm of the belief that ancient Egyptians were just crafty and way ahead of their time, even I can't deny how enticing the idea of extraterrestrial beings assisting in their creation is. Now, aside from how incredible the pyramids are and the mystery surrounding how they were built, we also gotta talk about where they're positioned. The three main pyramids are aligned in a way that closely matches the stars in Orion's belt. The Egyptians definitely had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. Even more fascinating is the fact that the sizes of the pyramids seem to correspond to the brightness of the stars. Two of the pyramids are nearly identical in height, while the third is about half as tall. In the night sky, two of the stars in Orion's belt shine brightly, with the third star being dimmer, mirroring the layout of the pyramids. The pyramids are also positioned in a nearly straight line with the North Magnetic Pole, so it's very impressive that an ancient civilization had such an advanced knowledge of science, geometry, and astronomy. They had to have had skills and understanding similar to what we have today to design and construct the pyramids with such perfect alignment. And again, the size of the pyramids themselves is also just remarkable. So what do you all think? Did they have some help from extraterrestrial visitors, or were the ancient Egyptians just that ahead of their time? There's something very mysterious about this pillar in India, known as the Iron Pillar of Delhi. It seems impervious to rust, even after 1,600 years of being exposed to the elements. The pillar dates back to the Gupta period around 375 to 413 AD, and the fact that it doesn't rust is pretty impressive. Building something like this would have been challenging without advanced technology and precise chemical treatments. Standing about 23 feet tall and weighing over 6 tons, the pillar was first erected in Udayagiri and later moved to its current location. It bears an inscription in Sanskrit praising a king named Chandra. believed to be Chandragupta II. The pillar's been exposed to harsh weather for centuries, but it's still mostly rust-free. It turns out that the iron used in the pillar was made of misawite, which is a compound of iron, oxygen, and hydrogen which helps protect the iron from rusting, but the method they would have used to achieve this is still a mystery and makes some people wonder if certain ancient civilizations had access to technology far beyond their or even our time.
If you were to Google when the first battery was invented, you would be told that it was invented in 1800 by Alessandro Volta and John Stringfellow. Great name, by the way. But that would be wrong, because in 1938, archaeologists discovered the first true battery, which was actually created around 2,000 years ago. The batteries, made with clay jars and iron rods capable of producing more than a volt of electricity, were found just outside of Baghdad, Iraq. 3 were discovered, and since their discovery, nothing of the like has ever been found again. The exact origin of the batteries remains unclear, but what is clear is that the society that made them was either incredibly advanced or had help from someone from the future, perhaps even Volta and Stringfellow, and if that's the case, the answer Google gives you would be in fact correct. It's possible. Anything's possible.
The Saqqara Bird is a small wooden artifact that was found in an ancient Egyptian tomb near Saqqara. It's about 2,200 years old, and at first glance, it's a bird. But when you look a little closer, you might notice that it looks a lot like a model airplane. Unlike other bird statues from ancient Egypt, this one doesn't have legs, and its wings are shaped differently. It's a pretty unique design that just adds another layer of mystery to the history of ancient Egypt, which is already full of mysteries. Did ancient Egyptians know something about flying? Back in 1969, an Egyptian doctor suggested that the Saqqara Bird might be an ancient model of some sort of flying machine. People have even made replicas of it to see if it could fly, and some of these models do glide pretty well when launched. Now, most archaeologists think the thing was just a toy, but I mean, what if they did know more than we give them credit for? Or what if someone far in the future managed to pay them a visit, and some ancient Egyptian sculptor based this small wooden piece off of a strange, unexplained object they saw gliding overhead one day?
If Antarctica was discovered in January of 1820, then tell me, why did it show up on a map created in 1513? The Piri Reis map, to be exact, created by Turkish admiral and cartographer Piri Reis. While the map doesn't outright say the word Antarctica, many people believe the landmass located at the bottom right corner to be representative of the continent, about 34 million years ago before it became covered in ice. This was confirmed by Captain Lorenzo W. Burroughs of the US Air Force, who said that the landmass in the Piri Reis map accurately depicted the coast of Antarctica that is now currently hidden under ice. This is strange for a few reasons. 1. How did Piri Reis know about Antarctica? And 2. If Antarctica froze 34 million years ago and the map was made in 1513, how did Piri Reis know about its formerly subtropical climate without the use of modern day technology? Is this guy a time traveler, and if so, did he travel backwards or forwards to learn this information?
Locked away in a museum's hidden chambers lies a chilling reminder of humanity's ancient past, the shockingly preserved body of the Tollund Man. Discovered buried deep in a Danish peat bog, this 2,400-year-old Iron Age sacrifice victim looks disturbingly fresh, as if frozen in eternal sleep. Thanks to the bog's unique chemistry, scientists were not only able to determine exactly what his final meal was, but they could even lift his fingerprints after thousands of years. The rope still tightened around his neck suggests a grim, ritualistic end, fueling unsettling stories about ancient curses or vengeful spirits connected to his death. Museums carefully restrict access to him, afraid not just of damaging this priceless artifact, but perhaps wary of something darker lingering around the Tollund Man's eternal resting place. Buried deep inside the vault of an undisclosed museum lies a chilling artifact you'd hope never to encounter. A bizarre, two-headed, bat-like creature preserved with disturbingly lifelike realism. Known simply as the dual-headed bat, this twisted specimen was first rumored to be discovered hidden within an old Victorian Victorian mansion, stashed away inside a locked chest marked with strange, illegible symbols. Its grotesque appearance, featuring sharp teeth, elongated limbs, and unsettlingly expressive faces, immediately sparked rumors of occult practices and dark alchemical experiments from the past. Curators remain tight-lipped about its true origins, perhaps fearing that its mysterious presence brings with it sinister energies best left undisturbed. Hidden in the deepest archives of a museum's forbidden collection rests an object so chilling, many believe it holds a genuine demonic presence: the horned demon mummy. Sealed carefully in a velvet-lined wooden box, this tiny skeletal figure with sharp horns, pointed ears, and grotesque fur-covered legs immediately conjures images of dark rituals and forbidden occult ceremonies. Rumored to have originated from an 18th century occultist who claimed to have summoned creatures from the infernal realms, this artifact was quietly donated to the museum under very mysterious circumstances, accompanied by warnings never to open its enclosure after midnight. Museum employees whisper tales of strange noises and unexplained shadows around its location, leading to it being carefully locked away, far from curious eyes that might accidentally awaken something best left sleeping. Hidden deep within a museum's secret storeroom sits Sydney Knows, an antique fortune-telling machine with a reputation darker than its cheerful, painted smile would suggest. Originally popular in the early 20th century arcades, visitors would insert a penny and eagerly await Sydney's predictions printed on small cards. But soon, unsettling stories emerged. Sydney's predictions often came disturbingly true, frequently foretelling accidents, illnesses, or tragedy. Some visitors claimed the doll's eyes would follow them, and whispers circulated of late-night workers hearing laughter or seeing Sydney operate without being activated. Frightened by the growing legend, museum staff quietly removed the machine from display, locking it securely away, though some still wonder if Sydney already knows exactly what awaits those who disturb him again. In a dimly lit museum archive sits one of the most unsettling children's books ever created, a pop-up book titled Medical Oddities: Nature's Anomalies and Carnival Gaffes. While pop-up books usually enchant children with playful characters, this particular volume does exactly the opposite. It is definitely not a children's book. Within its pages lurks a disturbingly realistic, mummified human face, accompanied by eerie photographs and unsettling descriptions of sideshow performers and bizarre anatomical specimens. Originally created as a macabre curiosity from the Neville Colmore collection, the book quickly gained notoriety when rumors began to surface about it causing nightmares, insomnia, and unexplained illnesses among those who dared to read it. Museum curators quietly pulled it from public display, locking it securely away, wary of the strange aura and the unsettling feeling that some pages are better left unopened.
Basements can hold more than just junk in old boxes. From bones of long-deceased family members to possible taxidermied corpses, these are real cursed items people found hidden in their basement. This first story is absolutely wild. So imagine moving into the home you grew up in and finding bones buried under it. And not just any bones, but the bones of your father, who'd been missing your entire life. That's exactly what happened to a New York man named Michael Carroll. For years, Michael Carroll wondered about what happened to his father, George Carroll, who went missing in 1961 when Mike was just under a year old. His mother's story was always changing. She gave him the classic, oh, he left for cigarettes and never came back line. Later, she changed it, saying he went out to take the garbage and never returned. She even told him he left for a woman he'd met while serving in the Korean War. Now, after his mother passed away in 1998, Mike bought his mother's home, the home that he grew up in. He then consulted with psychics. One of these psychics pointed to a spot in the basement at one point, saying, I feel this energy coming from here. And years later, using ground-penetrating radar, he confirmed that there was something buried 6 feet below the house. Mike began drilling through the basement floor, and you can't make this up, it was on Halloween that his sons made the grim discovery: human bones. Authorities soon identified the remains as Michael's father's, who died from blunt force trauma. Now, Mike had mixed emotions, saying, we found him, and now it opens another bag of worms as far as 1,000 questions. Michael had his suspicions about who might have killed his father, but he didn't want to reveal anything publicly. From Reddit user Fonzie327 comes the bunny painting. In junior year of college in western Pennsylvania at a fairly large state school, my best friend and I are moving into our place. It's a big house on the far edge of town. We start moving some of the big boxes and stuff down into the basement. The basement was an unfinished concrete square with a smaller room that you stepped up one stair into that contained the water heater and some other pipes and stuff. So we're looking around the basement as we move stuff down there, and we're in this smaller room. We start checking out some built-in shelves and their contents. There's a large painting leaned up against the wall about 3 feet tall, and we turn it around to take a look. It's a painting of a guy wearing a one-piece pink footy pajamas type thing with the bunny ears on the hood. He's got a blade in his hand pointed towards his stomach as if he's about to stab himself, with a big smile on his face. Now, this is creepy enough as it is, but here's the real kicker. We slowly realize he's being painted from inside the smaller room, looking out into the rest of the basement. The woodwork framing on the doorway he's leaning on and some other details are exactly what I'm looking at in real life. Oh, hell to the nah. We quickly moved the stuff down there and put a large piece of furniture in front of the basement door. We didn't go down there even one more time until we moved out at the end of the year. Alright, I talked about one set of bones at the top of the video. How about a house with 1,200 skeletons or so buried under the basement? A place like that's gotta be haunted, right? Beneath a home in Craven Street in London, over 1,200 skeletal remains were found, both human and animal. These bones date back between 1757 and about 1775, right when the famous American founding father Benjamin Franklin lived in the area. The home had been used by William Hewson, a pioneer in anatomy. During that time, it was illegal to dissect corpses, so Franklin offered his basement, turning it into a hidden anatomy school. This allowed Hewson and his students to study anatomy in secret. Pretty cool little piece of history there, but would you stay in this house if you found out there'd been thousands of bodies dissected in your basement? A now deleted Reddit user posted a story about their disturbing visit to a hoarder's basement while working for a junk hauling company. And yeah, they had a lot of junk to haul here, and not the typical kind. I got called out on a job to clean out a hoarder's house. The basement looked like it was an insane asylum that a serial killer moved into. Animal skins hanging from the ceiling, old-style sewing machines, newspapers covering up windows, and clippings of certain people, glass jars filled with something, stacks of wet mattresses, old-style bed frames, a few rats, mold. Yeah, I assumed there'd be mold when I was reading that list. Where do you even start with a place like that? I mean, animal skins hanging from the ceiling. Is there really saving that basement, or you just burn the whole place to the ground? Okay, prepare to see what's gonna haunt all your dreams tonight, and probably for like weeks after this. Take a look. This image appeared on Reddit with the caption heading, "Creepy doll someone found in their basement." And yes, I thought the exact same thing you're probably thinking right now. This does not look like a doll. I went through the comments and it seems like the image was originally shared on a Facebook group by a woman who simply said, "Doll I found in the basement." People started asking what the hell the thing was, if she actually found it in her basement, or if she'd found the image somewhere on the internet. She deleted the post without having answered anyone's questions, and now we're just left with this ghastly image with all the lingering questions. Some people think she pulled the image off the dark web, and that's certainly possible. I have no idea though. I just know that I do not like it. Oh, and I'll go on to say that the top comment on the Reddit post of this doll picture is from someone I really hope was trolling, but you just never know with the internet. They commented about how wonderful the skin looks and went on to share some knowledge about taxidermying people. This led to other commenters becoming a little suspicious of the person, and one just outright asked if they were a serial killer, to which they never got a straight answer. Again, hope they're just trolling, never know. Imagine if you're spending the day helping a friend move some furniture into their house when you hear the floor start to crack. Then before you know it, the floor falls out from under you and you're plummeting down below. That's what happened to 67-year-old Christopher Town, who fell nearly 30 feet down a hidden well while helping his friend move furniture into a house in Guilford, Connecticut. The flooring gave way beneath him, sending him splashing into the cold water below. How horrifying is that? Town said he heard a crack and looked down to see the floor giving way underneath him, and then he was just falling. The well had been covered up during renovations done to the house built in 1843. The Guildford police explained that the well was once outside the home, but after an addition was made in 1981, it was concealed under nothing but wood flooring, which is insane. When firefighters arrived, town was unable to touch the bottom of the well. He was just clinging to the stone walls, trying not to drown, and with temperatures dropping, he was becoming increasingly hypothermic. But rescuers were able to pull him out, and luckily he only suffered some minor injuries. He probably wasn't going to be helping anyone move after that, though. In 2015, an elderly man named Klaus Dieter F. was found to have been hiding an army tank in his basement. And I know, whatever, like who doesn't have a 40-ton army tank sitting in their basement just in case of emergency, right? But this wasn't just any old tank. It was a German World War II Panther tank. Along with that, he had a stockpile of ammunition, firearms, and an 88mm anti-aircraft cannon. German authorities had raided his home, and he received a hefty fine and a 14 months prison sentence. Apparently this guy didn't just leave the tank sitting there either. He'd occasionally drive it, and even used it to plow snow. To be fair though, if you had an army tank and a big enough property where you could drive it around, wouldn't you? I guess you'd have to have a pretty large property though, if you got a freaking army tank and a cannon sitting in your cellar. In 2010, a family in Telford, Shropshire were having a few drinks and celebrating Good Friday when they decided to peek under a metal grid in their Victorian home. Pat and Diane Farla had been wondering what was under the grid for a few years, and they finally figured, why not? Let's just check it out. So their son Gareth and his uncle Matthew removed the grid and crawled into it. What they found was a nearly 200-year-old chapel sitting right under their house. Matthew told reporters, "The first thing we came across in the middle of the basement was an old open chest, and in it were old newspapers and bottles dating back to the 1930s. There were also hooks hanging from the ceiling which could have been used to hang meat. Hopefully, at one end of the cellar was a sort of mesh or cloth which was damp. There were also some sort of brick seats around the walls which looked like something you might find in a church." Now, this was a pretty amazing discovery. Not at all what they'd been expecting to find, but they were also a little spooked and even wondered if they'd accidentally released some sort of spirit into their home. Gareth went on to say, "After we discovered the basement, we went back upstairs and were taking some pictures. We took a picture of Matthew's pregnant girlfriend Karen. When the pictures came out, there was something white on the photo right by her belly. My mother thinks it's an orb, as the rest of the picture is clear apart from her belly, and my nan Peggy is quite superstitious and she thinks it could be something there. It could just be a coincidence, but it seems quite strange." People with shark phobias often stay out of the water, and whether it's the ocean, which makes sense, or lakes and pools, which is irrational, but hey, at least it's still water. One place people who are deathly afraid of sharks feel safe though is on land. And at home, I mean, you'd never even fathom finding a shark, right? But the London hammer is one of the most famous out-of-place artifacts. It was found in 1936 in London, Texas, by a couple named Max and Emma Hahn while they were out exploring. They found the hammer embedded in a rock formation that was estimated to be around 100 million years old. The hammer itself looks surprisingly modern though. It has a wooden handle and a metal head, which, when examined, seems to be made of iron and steel, materials that weren't supposed to be around during the time the rock was formed. The rock surrounding the hammer was found to be from the Cretaceous period, a time when dinosaurs roamed the earth, long before humans or even advanced tools like this hammer were believed to have existed. There are some pretty wacky but fun ideas about the hammer, one being that it could be a remnant from a future civilization that somehow ended up in the past and accidentally left the tool behind. Now we head back to Egypt with the discovery of an ancient Roman city in Luxor. The news about this incredible find was announced back in January of 2023. Egyptian archaeologists found a very well-preserved Roman city in Luxor, dating back to the 2nd and 3rd centuries CE. It's now been described as the oldest and most important city found on the eastern bank of Luxor by Mustafa Waziri, head of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities. The archaeological team unearthed a whole whackload of these ancient structures, including residential buildings, offering offering insights into how people lived during that time. There were also the discovery of 2 pigeon towers used for housing carrier birds, meaning this city was very likely involved in communication networks at the time. There were also metal workshops found in the city that contained whole collections of artifacts of their own, pots, tools, and a collection of bronze and copper Roman coins. Next up, we have the 4,500-year-old tomb. This is another recent 2024 archaeological discovery. I really tried to fill this list up with new stuff. So this discovery was made about 20 miles south of Cairo. Egyptian and Japanese archaeologists stumbled on an ancient Egyptian tomb carved into rock over 4,000 years ago. I always say stumbled on, like these archaeologists are just kind of walking around and they're like, oh, it's an ancient tomb. Obviously, there's more that goes into it than that. It's just the easiest way for my brain to wrap my head around it. They stumbled on it. So anyway, the tomb was carved into rock over 4,000 years ago, dated back between 2649 and 2150 BC. The tomb contained a whole bunch of graves and artifacts from different historical periods. During their excavation, the team unearthed a bunch of treasures. There were human remains buried alongside a vividly colored mask, a burial site from the 2nd dynasty, and an incredibly well-preserved alabaster vessel from the 18th dynasty. In the tomb, there were also 2 terracotta statues depicting the ancient Egyptian goddess Isis and Harpocrates, along with a stela with a man's name encrypted on it, a man named Heroides. I think that's how you pronounce it. You've all heard of the Moai statues on Easter Island before, I know, but just last year, archaeologists found a new one. This new statue adds to the nearly 1,000 that have already been found on the island. This latest statue was uncovered in a dry lake bed, the only one to be found in that location. So far, anyway. The discovery was made by the organization that oversees the island's national park. Terry Hunt, a professor of archaeology at the University of Arizona, was incredibly excited about the find and described how important it is that these statues be retrieved, helping to preserve the history of the Rapa Nui people. So with how much attention and research has gone into the Easter Island statues, why was it that this one was just discovered now? Well, they're saying it's probably because of changes in the area's climate, resulting in the drying out of the lake that was surrounding the sculpture, and they're thinking it probably won't be the last one to turn up. Next, we have another exciting discovery. News about this came out just recently as well. A ton of cool artifacts were found in Brazil. And this one's pretty cool because this stuff was discovered completely by accident. This really was like stumbling on it. So there was a routine construction project going on at an apartment complex, but then construction workers came across a pretty alarming find, human bones, and then more and more stuff started turning up. There were also pottery shards, so these bones weren't recent. Turns out all this stuff belonged to an ancient civilization dating back as far as 9,000 years ago. During excavations, they found thousands of artifacts, and not only that, but these artifacts could possibly reshape the understanding of human settlement in Brazil. The site, known as Rosanne's Farm, was full of stone tools, ceramic fragments, decorated shells, and bones, which was excavated over the course of 4 years of intense digging. And in total, 43 human skeletons and more than 100,000 artifacts were uncovered. Archaeologists unearthed remnants of a group that existed around 8,000 to 9,000 years ago, meaning that humans moved into the region much earlier than previously believed. The leader of the excavation stated the discovery could, quote, completely change the history of not just the region, but all of Brazil. End quote. This finding may totally change the way we look at the timing and the roots of human migration into the Americas from Asia, which is pretty cool. And we're finishing off the list with the finding of a mysterious Anglo-Saxon artifact, again just in January of this year, in Langham, England. A treasure hunter made a pretty cool discovery with a metal detector. It was a small artifact made of gilded silver. It was just under an inch in diameter and 0.3 inches in height. Apparently it dates back to the 8th century. It also has an image of an animal engraved on top, along with Celtic knot-like patterns. Not entirely clear what the object is. The Portable Antiquities Scheme, who are responsible for recording finds like this, noted the thing is similar to other items discovered in the same time period, but this one stands out because of its size and its design. Historian Helen Giak speculated that the spiral pattern on the artifact looked a lot like Celtic designs, and that the animal depicted could be a horse. Definitely what it looks like to me as well.